So here's a question. Why do so many smart people still feel broke? Seriously, how is it possible that you can have a decent income, a solid career, maybe even a side hustle, and still feel like money stress is sitting right here in the passenger seat every day? Well, today's guest says the problem might be this. We become obsessed with looking rich instead of becoming rich. And honestly, once you hear her explain it, you can't unsee it. Because right now, there's an entire economy built around convincing you to spend money you don't have to impress people who probably aren't paying attention anyway. But today, we're talking about a totally different mindset, a future rich person mindset. Now, I love this because today's guest wasn't born a money expert, not even close. In fact, Haley Sachs, who you probably know better as Mrs. Dow Jones, says she once sat in an HR meeting staring blankly at this 401k form, wondering what planet is everybody else on where they understand how this works. And now she's become one of the internet's most trusted voices, helping people build wealth without giving up their life, their personality, or their joy. So today, how to stop fake rich behavior, the money habits future rich people actually use, why financial success is more systems than willpower. You know how I love that. And the simple mindset shift that can completely change your financial future. But first, a word from our sponsor. You may already know there's no sponsors on our Stacking Benjamins videos. Instead, we did something better because there are a ton of practical takeaways in this discussion. We put together a sheet with the top strategies, the top ways to take action, the top ways to become a future rich person, and we put it together at stackingbenjamins.com/cheat sheet. And go get it. And of course, if you know somebody that's secretly one DoorDash away from disaster, maybe you got to send them this video as well. And of course, subscribe, smash that like button, as all the kids say, right? So that you find more strategies that you can steal, more tactics that you can steal. It's all here on today's video. Of course, let's keep it going at the end with the comments, and afterwards, after I'm done talking to Haley, as we do on all of these videos, I'm gonna have what my biggest takeaways are, and maybe you can share yours as well in the comments. All right, here we go with Haley Sachs coming down to Mom's Basement. And I'm super happy we finally have this woman coming down the stairs to Mom's Basement. Have a seat. Haley Sachs. Nobody knows her as Haley. Everybody knows her as Mrs. Dow Jones. How are you?
Well, I'm better now that I'm finally getting to see your digs. Like, this is crazy. It's so nice that your mom lets us record here.
I know. No rent, Haley. No rent.
No rent. That's future rich person behavior.
I'm on future rich person team already. You dedicate your brand new book to your parents, who you write right in the dedication. You say they gave you everything except financial literacy. And what's funny is it's the same thing with me. Like, I got all this love and support and no idea what a 401k was. Oh. And I feel like a lot of us were raised to be good people, but not good with money.
100%. And I think that it's like from two places. One is they just don't know. Like, maybe they were never taught, and so they've never really thought about money, so they're not going to teach their children. But I think there's another part of it too, where if your parents grew up in a situation where money was really stressful, then for their kids, they want to avoid it, almost to save you.
Yeah, to be protective. Like, no. Yeah. You don't need to worry about this. I'll worry about it.
Yeah, like as though it's a gift, but then you don't realize that you're causing generational trauma. So mom and dad, you got to perk up.
You tell your story. You are in this HR meeting and immediately you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? You all of a sudden realize I have no idea what any of this stuff means. Take me to that moment. What's going on in your head?
I had like my first big girl job. When I got out of college, I hit the ground running in New York City, trying to become a comedian. And as anyone pursuing an artistic career knows, that means that you are late at night working on your craft. And then during the day, usually holding a lot of smaller gigs. So I worked at a Pilates studio behind the front desk. I was a nanny for a kid named Winthrop on the Upper East Side.
His name, by the way, Haley, had to be Winthrop. It had to be.
It had to be Winthrop. And it literally, like the fact, I know, I didn't realize it then, but it was central casting.
Right.
I just had all these little jobs that I was, running around doing. I was on a W-9 and I didn't have a full-time role where they were ever asking me about benefits or health insurance. So I sort of skirted that issue, not really even knowing that it was an issue because at that point I didn't have any financial literacy and I was not future planning at all. And it really was just sort of like paycheck to paycheck. And then a lot of times cash to cash because I paid under the table a lot of the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I stuck that in my pocket. But then I got this job for Lauren Michaels, who started SNL, which was a dream as someone who was pursuing comedy. And obviously I wanted to do such a good job. And, finally my parents were proud of me. I had a real job. It was incredible. And so I show up the first day and as any good HR manager would, they asked me about my 401k contributions. They asked me which health insurance coverage I was interested in. And my eyes just glazed over. And I got so anxious because I realized that I had no idea how to answer any of these questions. And I was terrified of doing it wrong because these seemed like really big decisions that certainly I could not be held responsible to make. And so that was sort of my aha money moment where I was like, okay, I have to actually start taking this seriously because I'm taking this job really seriously and they're not going to take me seriously if I can't show up as an adult who can, answer these questions.
Well, that's what I love about you is you go home and you study it right away. You're like, okay, yeah. I'm not going to look dumb in 2 meetings. Like it's okay to look dumb in 1 meeting, but in 2 meetings, there's all these resources where you can go get this stuff, which drives me crazy because a lot of the time people are like, I don't know where to look for it. You've got one of the most amazing channels. I was telling you as we were getting ready to record how much I love your advice. The Iran conflict and about the fact that, cyber warfare is a big part of this. Button down your stuff, like button down your identity, your credit, because you don't want to be on the front line with a lot of other people.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like not enough people know that you can just have your credit frozen all of the time. And that's the right way to live. And it's very easy to unlock if you want to open a new credit card or you need to apply for a loan, but it gives you so much security. And yeah, unfortunately, in 2026, any real war is always coupled with cyber war. So that is something you got to lock down right away. But yeah, so I'm sad that I didn't know at that point about your podcast because you were podcasting at that point and I would have loved listening. Maybe it would have taken me on a different path. But instead, I found myself on YouTube and basically was met with videos of men in t-shirts with whiteboards trying to explain investing jargon unsuccessfully. And it just sort of looked like they had never been through puberty, let alone made any money. So I was not impressed. And then the content that was more towards women felt so oppressive to a glamorous, fun lifestyle, which is something that I think had really also held me back from taking financial responsibility because I thought that it just meant a life of austerity, that I was going to have to live, eating ramen nonstop and no more manicures and no travel and just that it was from one extreme to the next. And
you were talking about even reuse your paper towels, I think.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That was the video. Those were the videos that I saw for women that was you should wash and reuse your paper towels. And I was certainly this is not the financial wisdom of our age. I either have to listen to these guys who I, have no interest in and who are so confusing and who just make investing seem more confusing, or I have to listen to this content towards women, which just seems so sad. And I wanted to learn about money from someone who could make it feel glamorous and most importantly, aspirational to be good with money, which is something that I think is so missing from the culture and is why I made Mrs. Dow Jones. We admire billionaires, we admire people once they've made it, but the person who is on their way, who's building, who's cutting back, who's mindful, who's investing, like, why isn't that aspirational? Why isn't that what we're all looking towards as like, oh, that's what we want to be like? I didn't see that. So then I became it. And that's how Mrs. Dow Jones was born.
This is what I find empowering is any of our stackers listening. If you're new to all this and you think, I'm not going to get there. I mean, Haley, you went from, I don't understand a 401k, but I can break down a Taylor Swift relationship timeline. Like I've got the whole Taylor Swift relationship timeline down, but I don't know what a 401k was. To reversing that to now you're one of the main people teaching it online. Like you can do this. You can get there. And in fact, it's funny. You also say something that whatever you do badly with money, people that are future rich person out there, I did worse. Like you didn't log into your credit cards, ordering Nobu for breakfast. I found that funny. It's like rock shrimp tempura and cold brew. Like that's not in most financial plans. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I mean, it should be because they pair really well together. But no, I mean, that's what I always say is like, I think that so many financial experts, it seems like they were born to do that. Like they seem like those 10-year-olds who have lemonade stands and are flipping the profits into the market. And, Warren Buffett bought his first stock when he was 11 or 12. And those are always the people who are teaching about money. It's people who seem to always have a knack for it and like almost like a superpower. And so for me, it's like, no, I am just like you and I'm patient zero. And if I'm able to get here to the other side, then you can too. And by the way, it's beautiful. It's so much better than living with the wool over your eyes. And I'm empowered and I'm able to help a lot of people through my advice because I think that it's hard to find a teacher who you feel like won't really judge you and who breaks it down in terms that you understand. And also, I feel like it doesn't have to be so serious. Like you're fun too, Joe. Like it's like, why does it always have to feel like this intense medical drama whenever we're talking about our finances? It's like, no, we can have fun. There's levity. Because that was the biggest thing when I started my financial journey is I was like, oh, I've been lied to. This is actually not that hard. Like, all this time I thought that I can't do this, that it's way over my head, that I need to have someone else help me. My dad should do it for me, or maybe I'll find like a guy who can do it. Like, and then I was like, wow, damn, this is actually really simple. And I think that's also why women are such good investors because like we get it. We're like, oh, this is simple. We got this.
Yeah, focus on the foundation instead of the guy who hasn't been through puberty that you just talked about. Don't worry about all the stuff he's putting on that whiteboard. Like, worry about getting the basics. You make a big point of the fact that, though, what kind of holds us back is not the fact that we can't get this. It's that we're obsessed with looking rich instead of being rich. And that really hit me because I started thinking about what drives that behavior. It feels like there's this whole economy that's built on, don't check my bank account, just look at my outfit. Like what is the most common looking rich trap that you think most of us fall into before we start going down a Mrs. Dow Jones future rich person highway?
I mean, it happened to me. I think that it's like the designer purchase. If you want to look rich, there's no quicker route than just buying something that has some sort of logo on it. Like for me, I bought a Louis Vuitton monogrammed bag, by the way, from eBay. So I'm sure that it was like fake. And then I couldn't afford my rent. But it was like I had gotten a first paycheck and I was like, damn, I feel good. I'm rich now. Let me and get this bag. That is the same for most people, especially with online culture, because the truth is we live in this golden age of finance where from our phones, we can invest so much easier than any other generation. We can check our bank statements, our credit card statements. Like we can be on top of our money and grow our money in the most democratized way now because of the digital age. But with that has also come so much distraction and advertisement of what to spend the money on. So, our parents' generation saw 500 ads a day, and we see at least 5,000. That's a huge influx. And not to mention on social media, now everything is shoppable. So if you see that influencer that you admire wearing a new outfit, because they're always wearing a new outfit, within 2 minutes with Apple Pay, you can buy what they bought and then, have that feeling of what feels like their life for a second, because obviously the core human condition is that sometimes we want to escape our own lives, and spending sometimes feels like an easy way to do that.
It's like the friction is gone either way. You made the point. We can invest very quickly if we want to, but we can also get the hell into debt very quickly if we want to. It's like you got to decide what team you're going to play on.
Yeah, you have to decide, but I also think that you need to create systems around it too, because I find that a lot of impulse spending is really just from a lack of emotional regulation. So it's when you're sad or when you're tired or when you haven't eaten in 8 hours or when you're not your best, it is a way to have that dopamine hit. And so just be able to, and I talk about this a lot in the book, create pauses between you and that spending can really help. And then also creating systems around your online content diet so that you are unsubscribing from newsletters that cause you to spend, or influencers that make you feel bad about yourself. And so you're always spending money, or, removing Apple Pay from your phone. Like, I actually think the key to financial success is building a list. I'm like, bring on the friction. Bring it on. Like, that's what helps you stay rich and get rich and become a future rich person.
That's so interesting. The fact that in this case, friction is a great thing. Like, eliminate the friction on investing, but on the spending side, creating that friction is pretty powerful. Let's get into, we've talked about it a few times. We've said the words future rich person. I want to play a very quick game of future rich person or not.
Oh my God, I love this.
So I'm going to say the phrase. You tell me future rich person or not. Ready?
Yeah.
Future rich person or not. Waiting for a money miracle.
Not.
Future rich person or not. Marrying rich as a strategy.
Not.
Future rich person or not.
I love that.
Buying stuff you can't afford to impress people.
Ooh, that's a hard one. Not.
One more. Future rich person or not. 14 blushes, 0 in your 401k.
Not, but you're going to have great rosy cheeks.
Those are all not. Great job.
Thank
What
you.
does a future rich person do differently, Haley?
A future rich person enjoys their life now, but also sets their future self up, because you have to always be thinking about where you're going, because financial success is based on time in the market. So, which I'm sure your listeners are very aware of, because, they listen to you, Joe, smart cookie. But, and so being a future rich person is really being able to enjoy today while planning for tomorrow.
You share a lot of what your fans have gone through, these aha money moments. And these were a kick in the gut, Haley, as I was reading them. Some of them, just to share a few with our stackers, $60,000 of healthcare rehab that wasn't covered. $135,000 in student loans. Somebody who said, I YOLO'd into Haktua coin. This one really killed me, and lost $4,000. You had your aha moment. I had my aha moment. Do we have to go through this valley of death, or can we get ahead of it?
I think that a valley of death is not such a bad thing. Like, out of the ashes, the phoenix does rise. But I do think that it sort of depends on your disposition. I'm the kind of person where I told you before, Joe, like, if you tell me that the stove is hot, I'm not going to believe you. I need to touch it and get burned. Like, that's just me. I learned through experience. But that doesn't mean that if you haven't had an aha money moment, you should go seek one out, because, like, don't go get yourself into a lot of debt. And, like,
I need to know what this feels like, right?
Yeah, no. If you can avoid it, please do. I did not have that luxury. I don't think many people do. But But what I talk about really is the shift. And I think that especially when you're in like your 20s and your 30s, where, you're growing up and you're with your friends and it feels really fun and easy and carefree finances. And you sort of feel like everyone's on the same page as you and no one's really planning for the future. And you're all just sort of, YOLOing. And then you look up and you realize, oh my gosh, like how are they affording having a kid? Wait, they're buying a house? How'd they buy a house? Oh, wait, like they're starting their own business. And you have this moment where you realize that everyone else has sort of been diligently becoming future rich people, but no one gave you the memo. And so that is also a aha money moment, I think, for many too, where they realize, ooh, maybe I'm a little bit behind.
The stuff we've covered so far, Stackers, has been the foundational stuff to a lot of the tactics that are in your book, on your channel, on your new podcast. Let's get there a little bit. We're obviously just going to be able to cover a couple foundational things today. But what are some of the accounts you think that might be things that we need to make sure that we set up if we're beginning this journey toward becoming a future rich person?
Like, on TikTok, when you watch people, or on Instagram, when you watch chefs cook and they always have all of their ingredients in little bowls and they're putting the bowls in the pot, and you're like, okay, I would never do that at home, but it looks so great that they have everything chopped before. Great. So that's called mise en place, which is a French term that I borrowed because obviously I love the way that they kiss. And so I talk about that with your finances, where before you even start cooking, you need to make sure that you have all your little ingredients set up so that you're able to successfully build your financial structure, because so much of financial success is about systems and structure. It's not about willpower. It's not about being super smart and reading the Wall Street Journal every day. It's literally just about setting yourself up so that you're infallible. And no matter what happens around you in your life, you are not going to fail because you've got all your systems. And so where we start with is one, having a really solid bank account, which I think that a lot of people just have the same bank account that they have from like their college fare. They gave them a free pen and they don't realize that, oh, maybe they're getting charged crazy fees. Actually, I hate the app. Like there's just a lot of hidden nefarious things that can happen with banks. So I encourage people to look critically at their bank account, because you should love your bank account. And there's lots of great banks out there now, especially online banks that are giving great rates. And then you also need a high yield savings account, which I'm sure you talk about a lot too, which is just higher yield place to put your emergency fund and any short-term savings that is separate from your regular bank, so you don't really see it. And then on top of that, you'll build in investment accounts and all of your retirement accounts and things like that. But we start with the checking account because they're the baseline account structure that every person needs in their life.
People start out, they got debt and they want to begin investing. Which one comes first?
So I talk about this in the book, like in those action movies where someone is in a fight scene and the building is on fire and someone is attacking them. And you're like, what are they going to do? Are they going to deal with the fire, or are they going to, fight this attacker off? And the truth is, when you have debt and you don't have an emergency fund, it feels like that. You've got things coming at you from all directions, but you have to leave the building first, avoid the fire, and then you can deal with the attacker. Because if you deal with the attacker and the building burns down, no one's winning. So that I say that you need to start with your emergency fund, put that oxygen mask on first, get that 6 months in a high yield savings account. Even if you have high interest rate debt, just pay the minimum while you're saving that emergency fund. That is your first priority. And then once that is all stacked up, then you can focus on paying off your high interest rate debt.
What's something that people overcomplicate? Because as you said earlier, we make this all complicated. We got the whiteboard with 57 things you need to do when you're meeting with people, or that they're way overthinking.
One is lack of automation. Automation is the key to financial success. I would not be a millionaire without automation. There's no way, because we're human beings. We're fallible. Like, we wake up every day. We think that we're going to go on a 12-mile run. We're going to have a green juice. We, are going to get 12 of work done in 2 minutes. And then by 3 p.m., it's like, give me the cookie, let's hit the bong, and like, where's a beer? Like, but so you need to use automation so that you don't have to rely on yourself for that. And then the other thing that I think that people miss is just looking at their fixed expenses, because a lot of times your life, before you even add in like grocery shopping and travel and going out with your friends and all the fun stuff that makes life worth living, your actual fixed expenses are too high. And that just puts you on this hedonic treadmill where every month, before you even add anything else in, you're underwater. And so what's so bad about cutting back a little? Or what I say in the book is you have two choices. You either have to make more money or save more money. And with saving money, there's a floor to how much you can cut. But with making money, there's no ceiling to how much you can make. And so I really come from like an abundant money mindset. I really believe in encouraging people to make more money. I believe there's so much money out there for all of us, but also that you have to be smart about how you do it, because, online, everyone's like, get a side hustle. Like, oh, just add this in. And it's like, great. If you're a nurse who's already working 100 hours a week at a hospital, you're going to side hustle? Yeah, right. You're going to pass out. Like, you don't have the bandwidth for that. You got to be with your family. You got to take care of yourself. And so maybe it's about just finding a better job. Should you work at a private hospital instead of a public hospital? Should you go into private nursing? Like, finding ways to optimize your skills where you could be paid more. Because when you're creative, you actually can find routes to make more money, which I know sounds really easy when I say it like that, and it is difficult. But I do think that when you really look critically at what your skill set is, there are opportunities to bring up your income.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of Money Channel fans are people that are born to find ways to cut, and yet you can't shrink your way to greatness is a phrase I heard a long time ago that I love.
I love that phrase.
You can only cut so much. It's like at some point it's about living.
I also hate cutting. Like, my money philosophy is like, I'm always trying to find ways to make more money versus cutting. I mean, sometimes I do cut, like, don't get me wrong, and I keep myself on a budget for sure. But to me, it feels so much more expansive to think about how can I make more versus getting so stressed about what I need to cut back on.
It's funny because now the reason I cut back, and of course I'm in a better place than I was when I was horrible with money in the 90s. But the main reason I cut now is because I think I really don't value this. Like, why am I spending money on this thing that I don't value in my life? Like, it's just a waste. And so there's no reason to have it. But making more money is always, another trip to Greece or another day in Greece while you're there.
I love what you said about cutting things that you don't value. I feel like we talked about designer goods. I love fashion. So that is definitely something that I spend money on. But in terms of peacocking at all, I don't do it really anymore because it doesn't really add value to my life.
What's the first thing a future rich person does this week?
You have a money date, which is something that I do religiously. And by the way, guys, I never want to do it. So a lot of times to get where you want to go in life, you got to it's like going to the gym. But then once you're there, you're totally fine. But it's like, every time that I'm like, okay, I've got to do my money date this month, I have to sort of kick myself in the ass to get myself to sit down and actually open my bank accounts. But then I feel so much better after. So that's the other thing is like, I want to be real about the fact that like, people always say, oh, if you do something for 21 days, it becomes a habit. And then you just like magically become a different version of yourself. And it's like so easy. And it's like, no, sometimes it's still hard, but it doesn't matter. You still have to do it. So, but anyways, a money date is just a set time every month where you sit down with your money because Joe, money is a relationship. And if you were in a relationship and you guys never spent time together, I don't think that it would be going very well. You need time to review your spending, look at your bank statements. I'm always finding things that I forgot to cancel, subscriptions. Maybe I'm seeing a charge for a package that I forgot to send back. And it's just a set time to take care of all of those tasks. Opening your mail, like just that stupid adulting that we all have to do, financial adulting that it's so annoying, but we got to do it. And if you don't schedule the time to do it, you just won't do it because it's not a fun thing that you're going to want to just throw into your day to day. you got to be like, okay, this is what I'm doing it. And also you can make it fun. I don't believe in delivery sushi, but I do believe in cracking open a bottle of wine at home sometimes and looking at my finances. Like that is not something that I would say no to, or a lot of people don't drink. You could have a mocktail, but whatever your poison is, like try to make it as enjoyable as possible, but take that time to have a money date, just because what you don't track will never grow. So it's really important to understand where you're at financially if you want to make progress.
It's been so fun getting to know you, and just a little bit. And this interview could be 18 hours long, but we're going to let you go to the next thing. Haley's new book is Future Rich Person. This is awesome. What a cool cover. We will link to not just the book and Mrs. Dow Jones website, but also to your fantastic social channels. Because if you're not following Haley on social media, you're missing out. Because two things, as you saw today, she's super funny. And also number two, man, your advice is just so spot on. When you were talking, again, I'm going to go back to the same spot. When you were talking about what to do at the beginning of the Iranian conflict, it was the three things that you need to do. And you know what? I'm going to link specifically that video so people go watch it. Great seeing you. Thank you so much for visiting Mom's Basement.
Joe, I admire you so much. I really think you are so terrific at what you do. You're such a pro. And I'm a stacker. So it is really exciting to be in the basement. I've got to tell everyone who's listening, great hospitality. Love it here. And I'm hoping to come back because, like you said, this conversation could have been way longer. And I agree.
A big thanks to Haley, Mrs. Dow Jones, to you and me for hanging out with us today. And honestly, I think the biggest takeaway from this discussion is this. A future rich person doesn't magically appear one day. It isn't about waking up wealthy, which is what I think a lot of us want to happen, right? It's about building systems, building habits, and that builds the confidence wheel little by little over time. And I think Haley said something super important. Most people aren't bad with money because they're lazy or dumb. They're overwhelmed. They're intimidated, or nobody ever taught them this stuff in the first place, which means if you've ever felt behind financially, you're definitely not alone. But you also don't need to become some totally different person than you were yesterday to wake up today and begin winning with money. You don't have to stop traveling. You don't have to stop having fun. You don't have to stop enjoying your life. You just need a better system than impulse and stress. And maybe this starts this week with something really small. So let me give you a few reminders of some of them that Haley brought to the forefront. Freeze your credit. Set up a high yield savings account for that emergency fund. Automate one investment. Schedule a money day. Or finally, unsubscribe for those emails convincing you to buy things you don't even want. Those are 5 little moves you can make, one a day over the next week. Write me and tell me that you did those, because those are small moves with big momentum, and that's how future rich people are born. By the way, if you want our cheat sheet from today's discussion with Haley, so you remember everything, including the best action items and the biggest takeaways, head to stackybenjamins.com/cheat sheet, and definitely check out Haley's new book, Future Rich Person. I absolutely loved it. We'll include links below with that and, of course, her appearance on our podcast. So in the comments, what's one thing you've done that made you feel more like a future rich person? If this video was helpful for you, pass it on to a friend that needs it. Or if you're maybe further along, you already are a future rich person, pass it along to somebody who could become and join you as a future rich person. Of course, subscribe for more videos like this and like this so that we can help more people become future rich people. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy on behalf of the entire team here at Stacky Benjamins. Keep on stacking. We'll see you next time.